What I would like to remind everyone here is that now this is our fourth, if I recall correctly, implementation of Massachusetts STEM Week. It's an initiative out of the Office of the Governor, and inspire and informed by the thinking and the suggestion of the Massachusetts STEM Council. As for the past 2 years, the main theme of Massachusetts STEM Week remains "See Yourself in STEM." We found that it's been a very powerful theme to propose during STEM Week. And really the idea is that to see yourself in STEM really addresses both a diversity from a cultural, ethnical point of view of the people who are in STEM, but also the diversity of the roles that people have in STEM. So really, everyone with different skills and different personal history, culture, races, everything, to see how everyone has something really valuable to contribute to the field of STEM. That's the idea, the overall theme. I want also to stress that this year there are conversations. Actually, the regional STEM networks are going to implement a few statewide virtual events that are going to focus on some of the main workforce development areas that are of interest for the state, things like high tech, life sciences, medical field, and more. But again, just to bring to the forefront those areas in the STEM industry that are really strong for our state. Finally, I wanted to mention that all activities of Massachusetts STEM Week are open to be offered either in person, virtual, or if there is a possibility to do anything hybrid in this case. What I mean is that it's clear that some activities will be by definition in person, the way they are structured, they are implemented. There will still be many, many virtual offerings. And what I expect, there will be a little bit of mix of everything. I think when we will speak about our representative of the challenges that are presented here today, you may ask for more specific about this. I understand that these are challenges usually done within schools. So they will have specific, I'm sure, guidelines to that extent.
I'm Allison from the Wade Institute, as you probably gathered. So our STEM Week Challenge offering is called Hurricane Heroes, Storm City, Massachusetts. We are working with Salem Sound Coast Watch and the Lloyd Center for the Environment to deliver this program to everyone. So it's sort of two components. We have the STEM Challenge, but we are also putting on 2 offerings of a pre-challenge workshop where participants can sort of experience some of the hands-on activities with the instructors and get a sense for how they run and actually do them themselves. So in the break, everyone will talk about when that's happening and how you can sign up and what that includes. But just an overview of Hurricane Heroes. We're asking people to imagine that a Category 6 hurricane has hit Storm City, Massachusetts, and has been, that city has been flooded by 14 inches of rain. And so there's a few challenges that we'll ask students and then our teacher participants who take the workshops to try and do. So building a transport vessel to move people out of the flood zone, build a water movement system to try and move the floodwaters themselves, and then also thinking about how to design structures to be more resilient to flooding in the future. So I'm excited to talk about more details with everyone in the breakout room, but that's a very brief overview of what that looks like.
Thanks so much for having us. I appreciate it. CoderZ is actually, they mentioned some challenges will be hybrid, virtual. We will be all 3. You can do all 3 with CoderZ. We have partnered with Amazon Future Engineer, and during STEM Challenge Week or before STEM Challenge Week, you'll be able to participate in our Amazon Cyber Robotics Challenge and learn coding and robotics at a novice level with Hercules, the Amazon Fulfillment Center robot. At the end of STEM Challenge Week on October 22nd, we will have 2 options to visit a fulfillment center, an Amazon fulfillment center, virtually on a field trip. You will have hosts from Amazon Future Engineer in the fulfillment centers, where you'll learn the 4 steps of the Amazon process: pick, pack, slam, and ship. Slam's the throwaway there. You'll have to go to the field trip to learn what slam means. And we will have a landing page where you'll be able to come and sign up. The cool thing for CoderZ is teachers who participate in our 1-hour professional development session and complete the Amazon Cyber Robotics Challenge will be reimbursed $75. We're taking our grant and giving it back to the teachers so that we can help bring STEM solutions to students of all ages. So I look forward to talking to everybody in a few minutes. I will have more to share, and this slide gives you a big overview. My contact information is there as well.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. My name is Mike, and I'm with a company called Gale Education. You might know us in another name as Kidwind. We've been doing a lot of work on renewables for a long time. And we are excited to be in our second year of doing Mass STEM Week around power grid infrastructure. And the nature of the challenge is having students build small scale power grids and exploring a number of what will I call them? Basically, some of the basics about how power grid works, but more importantly, sort of how power grids are resilient and react to sort of large changes to them, and sort of exploring, what might happen in a hurricane or a flood or a freeze or things like that. And as you know, this has been in the news quite a bit lately with Texas and California and other areas. So our project is pretty simple. It just kind of goes in that spaces, and I can talk to you a lot more about it in the breakout sessions.
Hello there, Massachusetts. My name's Joe, and I'm from the United Way of Massachusetts Bay and Merrimack Valley. I lead our BoSTEM initiative, which unites with communities to provide career-inspiring STEAM opportunities to all underrepresented K-12 minority students. In partnership with Boston Public Schools, we're proud to receive the STEM Week Design Challenge grant from the state of Massachusetts, and would like to share our plans with you all so you can join us, no matter where you are. During STEM Week, educators will explore social justice and civics by using STEM as a lever for change. The impact of social justice issues on youth has been exacerbated by COVID-19 and our current racial injustice climate. Through this design challenge, educators will support their students in local data collection and synthesis to advocate and answer the question, how can we improve the health of our community? By addressing issues of equity in the city like our deteriorating environment, lack of affordable housing, transportation, and food security. If you would like to learn more, fill out the form linked in the description, and we'll reach out soon with professional development opportunities and resources for implementation.
All right. So again, I'm here, as I mentioned earlier, wearing 2 hats. So with this slide that I'm introducing here is really more on behalf of the Crystal McCullough Center. And for those who may not be aware, which is probably many of you, this fall, there is going to be a very big event, a very important event in a astronomical community and the scientific community at large, is the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope. This is a project that's been 20 years in the making and plus. And why this telescope is so important in a way, for those who are familiar with the Hubble Space Telescope, is the next generation Hubble Space Telescope in a certain way. But it's actually going to be, as we say there at the top, largest, most powerful and complex space telescope ever built and ever launched into space. And it's a big international collaboration. It's not just an NASA project involving the European Space Agency and the Canadian Space Agency, a very deep level. So again, for those of us in the space science field, this is really a big event. So the McCullough Center has been actually accepted as one of few hundred official NASA community event hosts. And so as part of that, we are going to provide a series of activities that are going to really peak around STEM Week, because the launch of this telescope, if everything goes well, is expected to be by the end of October, beginning of November. which means that STEM week will really just be a couple of weeks before. So we are going to provide both in-person and virtual programs. In-person will be at the McCauley Center with activities both in the planetarium and hands-on activities, various kinds. And the virtual programs are the same. We are going to prepare 1 hour or 55 minutes a program that includes, yes, some interesting visuals, but also we are going to translate some of the hands-on activities to be able to be facilitated by us at a distance, but students can implement them either in the classroom, if that's where we hope they're going to be, but should they be at home, they will also be able to do so. Our culminating event as far as STEM week is concerned is Friday, October 15th. It's a Friday before the start of STEM week, but that weekend before is unofficially part of STEM week traditionally. This is going to be a really big event. We will have hosting a planetarium at the Framingham State Planetarium, and our guest speaker is Dr. Catherine Flanagan, who has been for the past 15 years a member of the James Webb team. We also will live stream the event, so really to make it accessible as much as possible. We also plan a launch party. It's not really part of STEM week at this point, but we will connect everything because we don't know what time of the day or the night. We definitely plan to live stream it. If it's reasonable, we'll do an event in person as well. But anyway, stay tuned. I don't want to put too much detail here because if you are on our mailing list, you will get much more information about all the events related to James Webb. All right. We can move right. Okay, this is actually, I'm putting back my Metro West STEM Education Network hat. And some of you who were doing this work already, can anyone put in the chat, what do you think that image that is there on the screen, what part of the world is that image about? Any ideas? There are no bad answers, just it's a place where there is water. I see someone wondering, could that be Boston? I can tell you there is an airport close to the water. Let's see if anyone else can put anything else in the chat. Don't be shy. All right. Well, keep thinking, but indeed, oh, should I say? Yeah, no, indeed, it is Boston. For those of you who can recognize, there is a kind of an X. Those are the two runways of the airport. Yes, Suzanne, please feel free to bring the text up as well. So this is part, this image is an example of the new initiative that brought together by MSEN, but really is a collaboration between the McCauley Center and Windows on Earth at Turk. And David Libby is here to talk more about this with me in the breakout rooms. And the idea is really to bring to you some of these images. So this image and all the others we will share have been taken from the International Space Station. And the idea is that we are going to create something very simple. For every day of the week of STEM week, there will be a feature image with very specific prompts for discussion. In the breakout rooms, we will show to you not only images and the prompts that we are currently considering, but also background resources that teachers can use to start the discussion in their, the conversation in their classrooms about these images, how they connect to the global image, how does that connect to local situation and realities that students may experience every day. The idea is that, again, to propose a discussion so that then the students will be able to share their reflections on social media. And however, as you can imagine, there is going to be a choice of implementation formats. It's what we will share in the breakout room. Part of all of this is also we will host as a speaker Claire Vaughan Lee from Global Oneness Project for a number of reasons. First of all, she's an expert of this kind of work of connecting the global to the local and connecting from a scientific point of view to a more cultural and historical and social perspective. But also, Global Oneness Project is another co-partner another partner in a collaboration because, as I will explain more in a breakout room, we're actually using resources that they already created, and we are going to adapt it specifically for STEM Week.
Okay, so just again, I'm Allison from the Wade Institute for Science Education. If you're not familiar with us, we are a nonprofit based in Massachusetts that is dedicated to hands-on, minds-on, inquiry-based science education. So we offer professional development opportunities that focus on pedagogy and science content. And then we often partner with STEM experts and other nonprofits like museums and science centers to deliver those programs, which is why you'll see that for STEM Week, we're working with Salem Sound Coast Watch and the Lloyd Center for the Environment. And those are some longtime partners of ours. And the people that we're working with from those orgs are awesome. So if you're interested in signing up for this, just know you're getting a great group of instructors. So I sort of gave a brief overview, but my presentation will go more in depth. So just some background information on our challenge. A Category 6 hurricane has hit Storm City, Massachusetts. The city faces several problems that must be solved by your engineering team. So as a result of this hurricane, the city has been flooded by 14 inches of rain from that hurricane. And so you must find a way to do 3 things. One is evacuate people to safety. So you'll be asked to build a transport vessel that will move 25 people who are the size of teeny tiny pennies. And then also that vessel has to remain afloat for 5 minutes. So that's one of the challenges. The second thing that we'll be asking you to do is to move the floodwater. So this seems a little complex, and it is. We're going to ask you to build a water movement system using gravity or alternative sources of energy that will move the water 2 kilometers or 20 centimeters away from homes and businesses. And then the third part of the challenge will be to prepare for the future. So this storm has happened now, but that doesn't mean it won't happen again. And so we're asking you to prepare for the next possible catastrophic event by participating in a disaster preparation simulation. So I don't have all the details on that yet. I think the instructors are still noodling through what that looks like. But those are the 3 main components of our challenge. And there will be some really cool inquiry-based, hands-on, minds-on activities for you or your students to help figure that out. I also wanted to mention that the theme of STEM Week, as we all know, is See Yourself in STEM. And so there are a few things that I've sort of picked out from Hurricane Heroes, Storm City, Massachusetts, that I think demonstrate a wide array of STEM careers and the relevance of STEM in students' lives. So for example, I know this is not new to anyone, but we want our students to know that STEM is more than just a person in a lab coat standing at a lab bench. It is that, but it's so many more things than that. So our challenge involves whether in storm tracking, designing and constructing structures and transportation options. It also involves complex problem solving. So thinking about this is a real issue, like how does it affect people in a variety of ways? How are you saving people? How are you getting people food and shelter in the meantime? How are you rebuilding? It also involves human health. And then sort of statistics, right? Who is most impacted by rising floodwaters and global climate change? How do we know that? Why do they live there? And then something that can be really helpful for youth in understanding complex global issues is taking a local lens. And so while Storm City, Massachusetts is fictional, I mean, we just had Henri over the weekend flooding a lot of different areas here in Massachusetts and up the coast. And so it can really help students to look locally to understand big complex issues. So then here are just some details of our STEM challenge. So the challenge that we've designed is for middle school students, but it can be scaled up or scaled down for upper elementary or high school students. And I think it can be done in the classroom or in remote learning settings. Last year, the STEM challenge for us was totally remote, but we did have some people who were able to take what we provided and do it in person with their students. You will also receive a curriculum guide, and that will have some background information, as well as all the investigations that we're going to be doing as part of the challenge. And that's available to any teachers who sign up with us to do the challenge. A sort of little added bonus is that if you attend one of our pre-challenge workshops, you'll receive a kit of materials free to you. And the kits are only available for educators who teach in Massachusetts. Unfortunately, that's just the way the grant funds were given to us. So if you are a Massachusetts teacher, you will get a kit of materials to do the inquiry-based investigations that I just described. I'm not sure, I'll have to clarify, I just thought of one thing. I think you're just getting one set of materials, not enough for every student in your class, but I can clarify that. And I'll show an email at the very end where you can reach out with questions. And then finally, during the week of October 25th, if you participate in the challenge, we'll have a sort of virtual showcase where you can show your students' work. And last year it was really fun. We had people contribute to a Google slide deck. We had someone actually create a video of their students working on the challenge and then shared it with us. So it's really nice, even in virtual times, to be able to share what our students are doing with each other. I also, so this is information on the pre-challenge workshops. So like I mentioned, we have our challenge, which is Hurricane Heroes, Storm City, Massachusetts. But we're offering 2 opportunities to do a pre-challenge workshop with us, as well as Salem Sound Coast Watch and the Lloyd Center for the Environment. And I mentioned earlier, that is an opportunity for you to actually get to do the things that you would do with students. So you get to try out some of the activities. You can think about how it went or how you might adapt it with your students. It can be really helpful, especially when there's things like solar panels or small motors, to actually get to figure out how to use them before you have to teach students and guide students through using them. So the pre-challenge workshops, there's 2 opportunities. One is a weekend. So that's Saturday, September 18th, and that's from 8:30 to 1:30. And then the other option is Tuesday and Wednesday, September 28th and 29th, both from 3:30 to 6. So if you choose the second option, just to clarify, it's both Tuesday and Wednesday. We're looking for 5 hours of engagement for this workshop. We are doing ours totally virtually. I know the state has requested that we're doing things in person, but some of our instructors feel more comfortable staying virtual. And so that's how the pre-challenge workshops are going to take place for us this year. But I will mention that the activities that we will do with you in the workshop, you can adapt to do in person with your students if that's how your school is this year. And then finally, the most important thing, these are free workshops. Thanks to the grant from the state, we're able to offer these workshops and material kits for free. So you can find more information on our website. And then if you have any questions, the email there at the bottom is the best place to go. And I can put both of those links in the chat so that it's easier to find. So that's sort of my presentation. If people have questions, I would love to answer them to the best of my ability.
Thank you so much. I definitely want to start with, this is our first year to participate in STEM Week in Massachusetts. So we're very excited to participate. And I just want to take you through an overview and tell you a little bit about our story. The cool thing is CoderZ's part in STEM, there's so many aspects and there's so many different options for teachers that makes me very excited. We focus on the computer science part of STEM, but there's so much more to it than just the computer science piece, because behind STEM, and I know you all are aware of this in a big way, it's more about the computational thinking, the critical thinking skills, all those other life skills, 21st century skills, whatever you want to call them. that kids really need to be able to excel in, and they're really hard for teachers. So I'm going to just show you a little bit about CoderZ and what we do. So just conversations around STEM. The focus here is really, as Massachusetts is doing, is opening the doors and really shining a light on STEM and STEM activities, because there are so many jobs that we can't fill because we're not graduating enough kids in STEM career pathways. But we also have to make this really easy for teachers, because especially in the computer science side of it, teachers don't have that as a background. They weren't computer scientists, many of them. I'm finding some, believe it or not, who've turned to teaching, and they get huge kudos. But we really want to focus on computer science for everybody. CoderZ is all virtual, and we are actually two primary things. So when I say we're all virtual, that does mean every kid gets their own robot, and you never have to buy a replacement part. That has its place because kids need to get their hands on robots. But we're going to teach them those foundational skills through our curriculum and through the Amazon Cyber Robotics Challenge, as well as our virtual robotics competition, how they can learn the foundational skills and transfer that to any kind of robot they're working with. That's a critical piece, having foundational skills. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but I want to highlight how we do these things. So you see a couple of video clips here. The top one is from our curriculum. The bottom one is from our virtual robotics competition. Those are outside of the design, STEM Design Week Challenge. But I definitely want you to see that at the core of what we do is equity and inclusivity. We want to make sure we can address any teacher at any level. So the Amazon story with CoderZ, about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, Amazon future engineer came to CoderZ and said, we love how you teach coding and robotics, and we share the same mission. CoderZ wants to reach as many kids as possible, as does Amazon future engineer. Amazon needs a lot of engineers. We want to open the doors for as many kids as possible. There's a lot of research out there that says by 2nd and 3rd grade, kids say, hey, I don't look like a computer scientist, so I'm not going to do that. We want to totally eliminate that. We want to expose them to the fun of computer science and coding and robotics as early as possible. Amazon Cyber Robotics Challenge starts at about 3rd grade for independent work and goes all the way through high school. So all of your intermediate to high school level students can participate. For primary teachers, you can also participate in it. It just has to be teacher guided based on reading ability. But I guarantee you that your primary level students know what Amazon is, and they know how to order something off of your phone. Just don't think they don't. They know. Educating them on this process is a great thing. So the Amazon Cyber Robotics Challenge is a 3-hour challenge, perfectly timed for the Design STEM Week. You can do this at any time. We'll be offering professional development sessions. Those have not been finalized yet. And we will be offering a landing page where you can go to sign up for the Amazon Cyber Robotics Challenge. You can start it as soon as you've taken the professional development, which is an hour, and you'll have options for that as well, and be able to complete the 3-hour course with your students. Novice level, as I mentioned, so any teacher can do it at any time. At the end, there will be also on our landing page options for you to sign up for October 22nd, and we are going to do these on Friday, specifically for Massachusetts educators, a live virtual field trip in an Amazon fulfillment center. I'm working with Amazon Future Engineer right now to get those times set up, so you'll have a couple of options so it can fit with your schedule for your students. If you can't meet either one of those, you can also sign up outside of those hours. They just won't be Massachusetts specific. So I don't want you to think if that's Friday isn't total bust for you, we can't help you. We have another layer that we've added. After teachers completed initially the Amazon Cyber Robotics Challenge, when we first introduced it, they loved it. Students loved it. Everybody loved it. But the teacher said, that's not enough curriculum. So if you're a teacher with Title I students or underrepresented populations, either one, you actually will be able to sign up for any of the CoderZ curriculum at no cost for 6 months. This takes you beyond STEM week and takes you into the school year to help your students with coding and robotics during the instructional day. So you actually only see 4 courses up here. I'm going to go to the next slide because we now have 5 courses. CoderZ Adventure with Spike Prime. You'll notice we have multiple robots. I've already talked about Hercules. So we have the Lego Spike Prime robot in our curriculum. We have the Lego Mindstorm EV3 robot in our curriculum. We have Zappy. Zappy is a CoderZ robot. And we have Ruby. And Ruby is a CoderZ robot. The point I make there is that I talked about foundational skills in coding and robotics. We want these skills to be transferable and understand that what a drive means in a robot, what an arm means, what a gyro means, what a sensor means, what a color detector means, all those parts to a robot mean. Students start out, and you see this says grades 4 through 6 based on reading ability. Code Farm is our 5th and 6th grade course. And then Cyber Robotics 101, though it says grades 4 through 9, students at 4th and 5th and 6th grades really need to have experience in coding and robotics before they can do Cyber Robotics 101. Really a middle school level course. Cyber Robotics 102 and Python Gym, trigonometry and high level physics are included. The robotics skills are taught in Cyber Robotics 102, and Python Gym is a practice environment for Python. Again, Amazon Cyber, I'm going to actually go back. Amazon Cyber Robotics Challenge during Design STEM Week and the Design Challenge, 3 hours. Of course, the lessons are about 45 minutes each. So you can see how those first 4 days, you do a lesson a day, and the 5th day, you go to the live virtual field trip. Title I teachers or teachers with students of underrepresented populations, after that, can then sign up for CoderZ curriculum free for 6 months. All of this will be on our landing page. And just so you know, we have all the standards alignments. We can do the privacy agreements and rostering through Clever with single sign-on, all of those different options for students. So I definitely appreciate the opportunity, and I will be sharing our landing page link with Suzanne so that you guys can have access to it as soon as it's available. It is not available today. Just takes a little time to build it, right? But you can also reach out to me or Amanda Graybo. We are the team for Massachusetts. And Amanda, if you'll put your email in, I'll put mine in as well. And you are more than welcome to reach out to us at any time. We are here to help and look forward to a large representation. I did forget to remind you guys that the teachers who participate in the professional development and complete the Amazon Cyber Robotics Challenge will be reimbursed for $75. We've decided that we want to sort of put that right back in the to the teachers so that they get the benefit of the professional development as well as learning how to incorporate coding and robotics in math, science, and language arts. So definitely here to help. And I want to make sure I'm sure there's things I forgot, but hopefully not. Any questions?
So our, I'll just back up a little bit. Kidwin has been in the business of teaching teachers and students about renewables for 18 years now. And we started in Arlington, Massachusetts with a fellowship from Tufts University. So we have some roots in Massachusetts. Though I live in Minnesota, we have a national footprint for programming, but we do have an important partner, STEM Education Insights, which is based in Massachusetts, who's helping us implement this program. And informed by our knowledge in sort of teaching kids wind and solar and things like that, we came to a discovery that people just don't really understand how the power grid works. And most of the educational tools to do that are very static. They're paper pencil, they're video, they're not very dynamic. So we've spent the last few years sort of working on how can we help kids engage with the power grid in a more dynamic and engaging format. And what you see there is one version that's very complex and expensive and messy. The version we are going to do at Mass STEM Week is a little bit more as engaging and as messy, but requires less expensive materials. It actually uses very simple materials to have kids build very simple power grids. And the core of it is having kids sort of work through complex parallel circuits and understanding loads and generation and transmission on individual sheets. But the real fun becomes when they have to take those individual sheets and connect them to make towns and cities within their classrooms. And as they do that, they have to develop rules like which lead will be positive, which lead will be negative, how will we power our town? What will we do if a storm comes and cuts a power line? Do we want to use coal? Do we want to use renewables? It starts to get into a wide variety of things big kids talk about when they talk about the power grid. And all we're using is cardboard and very simple materials to do it. And we can sort of bring in more complicated apparatuses to sort of, model sort of parts of the power grid and things like that. But at its core, it's a lot of circuits. It's a lot of large parallel circuitry using different loads and generation sources to power said circuits. So it sort of fits in that universe. And it's taking, we find that kids have a pretty simplistic idea of parallel circuits. We teach them a lot about what I'll call series circuits, but as you start to teach kids a little bit more about parallel circuits, their understanding drops to the floor very quickly. And one of the cool things about the power grid, it is the largest, most complex machine in the world. And I don't think we appreciate that enough until it doesn't work. And while all the educators and students that we impact out there, may not become power system engineers, we all use electricity. We all vote about electricity. So it is incumbent upon educators at every level to sort of share that. It's there. If without it, it quickly becomes a problem. And these are just two examples. We work very closely with communities in Northern California where the Palisade fire, killed scores of people. We donated a lot of equipment to the schools. That was caused by a power grid failure. Basically a power line touching a tree, setting off massive forest fires. Texas, same thing. You have a situation where lots of problems led to lots of generation going offline, and they were 4 minutes from total grid collapse, okay? And we might think that Massachusetts is like, we're smarter than Texas and California. You're not. Unfortunately, you have many things that could cause your grid to collapse. And that is sort of part of the design challenge that we're going to present to students is, how does it work? But then what are the threats to the Massachusetts grid? One of the big ones is, what if we can't pump enough natural gas to Massachusetts? Guess what? You have a big problem, a very big problem. So how would you react to that problem? The other reason to sort of get this in front of students and sort of this seeing yourself in STEM is that MIT did a very big study about sort of what the future of the grid looks like. The grid is kind of going through some massive changes if you have all explored this. And one of the big ones is we have a massive workforce problem. Somewhere on the order of 50% of all the engineers that work in the power grid are 6 to 10 years from retirement. That's an insane number. So you have just this massive need for employees and exposure. So while there are skills and things we want to teach students, there's also just this idea that we need to introduce students to these careers early. They don't even know they exist, and they're very well paid. They're all over the place. So we need to get it in front of them because if we want a more renewable powered and robust grid, it's going to require actually more workers, more highly trained workers. So in our STEM challenge, you're gonna learn about a lot about like where the power comes from, major parts, how the system works. We have a lot of hands-on stuff. We have a lot of simulation, online-based stuff. They're going to learn how to wire small circuits, but also grow them into much larger circuits. We're going to learn about threats. We're going to learn what resilient power grids are. And then in this whole idea of seeing yourself in STEM, we are building a local speakers bureau. So we're trying to get students and teachers connected to people who work in the power grid, and everything from a power system engineer to a line person to somebody who spends their time trying to help people reduce their energy usage. So not necessarily a STEM career, but a lot of different careers. As you guys have been talking too, we have to find a way to get students connected to this. And there is a lot of things students are doing in the energy justice space, climate change, that they not necessarily see the connection to the power grid. So how can we draw them in? It seems pretty boring, right? The power grid. I'm super excited about it. Most people are not. So how can I draw them into that process? And there are careers in finance and catastrophe and modeling and systems. So we need to find the ways to connect them into this larger system so they actually care and want to learn about it. So we have a lot of ways to do that within the curricular guides and materials that we'll share with you. Mostly it's catastrophe. They love the idea of things failing. So we have lots of examples of that too. What participants get, they're going to get a big box of stuff that will be plenty to do stuff with. We hope 80 to 100 students. You should have plenty of materials to do that. We will be doing a in-person PD sometime in early October. We will have a virtual option, but we're really pushing hard for in-person because the concepts and hands-on stuff we really want to teach you really does a whole lot better. I've had about 100 virtual workshops in the last 18 months, but in-person still wins, hate to say it. And then, so there'll be some PD, there'll be some support to help get you to PD, mileage and things like that and time. And then during STEM week, we will be doing a number of sort of live webinars from different power system folk in the industry, and also providing this list if the teacher wants to sort of bring somebody into their classroom or maybe do a little bit more one-on-one. One of the things we found out last year is trying to plan live webinars for 20 different teachers at 20 different times is an impossible thing. So we're going to put some dates out there, but then hope that we can provide a list of teachers for other opportunities. And then we're going to offer loans of the larger power grid kit system, which costs around $2,000. We're going to loan those out to teachers for a month to play with as they do it, but then they can mail it back. If we get a grant, maybe they can keep it, but we'll see about that. We have a ton of different online tools. I don't know if you've ever used Padlet, but this literally walks teachers day by day with the videos, with the materials, through the curriculum, in addition to print materials, in addition to video materials, in addition to a wide range of support resources. Plus, we'll be doing like virtual office hours for the whole week too. And this is a version like this kit will be loaned out to teachers as they want to use it, as they incorporate it with the more what I'll call like sort of build your own materials. Audience is primarily high school, but if we don't get enough high school teachers, we definitely are open to like middle school or informal educators sort of doing it. And the two kind of important deadlines, if you sign up early September 3rd, we're gonna do a little like mini teaser virtual workshop in mid-September. We'll send you a box of stuff and you'll kind of play with that to get a feel for it. And then on the second deadline is September 17th for the hands-on, and October 2nd where we meet up and you get a really big box of stuff and things like that. The key to signing up early is that we can start to build your knowledge base and you can start to plan exactly what you're going to do during STEM week. The earlier we start that process, the better it sort of goes, but we can kind of keep catching you up later on too. And that is what I have to say. In the chat, I just dropped the information sheet that has a lot more details, but also the place where teachers can register sort of to get signed on to the system.
Many of our programs today are talking about perspectives of Earth. We have a team mentorship program that is really the Metro West STEM Network is proposing a Perspectives of Earth mentorship program to bringing it to free high schools in Massachusetts. But also there was there is this big initiative that the McCullough Center, in collaboration with Windows on Earth, Turk and David in particular, developed starting a couple of years ago. Well, there was a previous version of this, but essentially the idea is this. Again, we are in the field of space science, And we have an incredible resourcing space that is the International Space Station and the observation capability that we have of planet Earth. Some of you may be familiar, but there is this area on the space station that is called the cupola, or the cupola, since it was designed by Italians, which is the space you see here, where you see the astronaut literally with their cameras take pictures of planet Earth. And so this is what this website, working again with Windows on Earth, Windows on Earth collects all the images that the astronauts take. And that's what David will tell us specifically. But then we created a website by curating a much smaller subset of images that are posted here, either relating them to the UN Sustainable Development Goals or for specific categories that, and I'll stop right here. You know, we group them, and again, we have about 100 images here, while Windows on Earth says thousands and thousands and thousands, but they are organized by themes. And when you go on each theme, you have the image taken from space, but also the possibility to connect to specific resources, mostly are NASA, but not only, resources that relate to the theme illustrated by those images. But I want to pause for a moment and actually ask Dave to tell us a little bit more about Windows on Earth.
Hi, everybody. So Windows on Earth is a project that's been around for a long time. Our claim to fame is we get a feed from NASA of all the images that are taken on the International Space Station. Photos inside the ISS are actually private to NASA, so we don't really get those, but anything that the astronauts shoot out the window. So of course, there's a ton of imagery from satellites, Landsat, KidSat, a bunch of tools like that. The interesting thing about the images we have are they're all shot by the astronauts. So while NASA assigns some photo targets to the astronauts, so they'll say, you know, hey, Mount Etna is erupting, so the next 3 passes over Italy at these times, grab a shot of Etna. A lot of the astronauts are actually amateur photographers themselves, and they just have a insane platform to take photos. So it turns out most of the photos taken by the astronauts are actually at the astronauts' discretion for whatever they look down at the Earth and find interesting. So that's also kind of the compelling nature of the images, which is, as opposed to a satellite image, many of the images taken by the astronauts are one where the astronauts went, oh, that's beautiful, or that's interesting, or that's something I want to get a photo of. I'm going to share briefly, this is our website. We have probably 1.5 million images here and another 1.5 million that we have yet to go through. It's manually going through these is a bit involved, but we have different collections. We've done our best to do some of this. So for instance, if you're interested in endorheic basins, which is where the water flows in and then evaporates or doesn't really go in, you know, here's Pyramid Lake, the Great Salt Lake, etc. And another thing you can do on our site is you can download the full high-res version of the image, so you can get down to some level of detail.
Just for a moment, so you know, these are the kind of resources that we already had. And so our idea for STEM Week is that ideally from this collection that we already curated, and curated means we selected the images, there is a couple of paragraphs that speak more to you know, the specific content of it you see in the image. But then again, these educational resources that we already created that are background information concerning the theme that the image is highlighting. What we are proposing is that we will select 5 images out of this collection, and we'll feature 1 image for each day of STEM Week. And we will, of course, share the images with teachers, however, ahead of time, so they know which image is highlighted on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And they will have different ways of choosing just to work with one image, not just with implementing some of the activities, providing with the resources, but most of all, engaging conversations with their students to use this global perspective provided by the images to connect with the local reality that the students may experience. This is the image that we showed earlier, and this is an image of Boston. Now we see it a little bit bigger. You can clearly see the airport here. And again, you know, this, just to give you an example, we will provide some prompts for reflection. And I have an example of prompts that I would be happy to share if it's useful for this conversation. But the idea is that we know that one of the issues is the rising sea levels. And so here is the opportunity to have a conversation in the classroom with the students. And ideally, you know, there could be two very simple scenarios. One is just an hour conversation. What do we think about that? Not they come up with their reflections. We provide a place in social media to share maybe this same image and their reflection. A little bit more, we could encourage, if teachers feel like they can engage students for a longer period of time with the same image, reflect on whether, you know, you might be in a coastal town, or even if you're not. This past year, working with people from Framingham Public Works, we realized, I mean, I didn't know how many issues for flooding issues there are in Framingham, right? It's different reason, but they're still environmentally pressing issues. So in this case, on our website, you go to the image, but you see you have more information about the situation. You have a link to, actually, this is a Windows on Earth website, so you can find different images. And then again, as I showed earlier, you would be, I think that image was under climate, and you would have general resources to work with this image. But fundamentally, what we would really want to do is for the teachers and the students to really use our prompts for conversation and reflect, how does that global perspective, even if this is Boston, but it's still from above, you know, over there on the ISS, how that global perspective connects to my local reality. So it's the idea, you know, we are going to have an image a day with a few specific prompts and link to the resources we show. We are not going to tell these teachers just go there and figure out, you know, we will give very specific prompts for discussion and maybe 1 or 2 links of the background resources we have if they want to use them. But the goal for us would be for the students to engage in these conversations and come up with short paragraphs. If we can post them on Instagram, for example, they can write a little bit more. And, you know, but to have, you know, under the same hashtag, to see students from different schools in a state to share their reflections on the same image. And it could be very interesting to see the different approaches that they take.